Hi there, this is Ranjit from tech2buzz.com, and quite a few of you have asked me to make a mobile buying guide for this Diwali season, and happy Diwali to all of you. And I have made that and had so many phones that I had to write it out on the paper. And I won't be talking about Chinese remake phones and also iPhones because iPhone users know what they want to buy. Particularly if you're buying an iPhone, I would suggest that don't go for the iPhone 4 as of now, because with the iOS 7 update, the iPhone 5 becomes very sluggish. So if you're going to buy the iPhone, go for the iPhone 4S. It's still good. iPhone 5 and obviously the 5S that's coming soon. By Diwali time, the iPhone 5S will launch. So let's start with this one. And again, the pricing of these phones change from week to week. So I have taken the pricing into account on the day of shooting, that is 29th October. But I'll leave the links for Flipkart and Amazon India, where you can find the current pricing. And also have done an in-depth review for all these phones, so you can check out the links in the annotation. You can click mostly here or there. I'll have the photograph for the model I'm talking, and there it will take you to the in-depth review for this phone. And I'll start this from the lower end, and we'll move to the high-end phones. First, let me talk about the budget of around 6,000. If you have a look at the Samsung Galaxy Young. Overall, it's a very good package. Earlier when this phone was launched, it was around 8,000, but now you can get it for around 6,000, and it has a 3.2-inch screen, and I would say overall it's a very good package. So at the 6,000 budget, look at the Galaxy Young. Next, if we move a little bit ahead, and our budget is around rupees 8,000 or so, the first phone that comes to my mind it's a Windows phone. It's the Nokia Lumia 520. And at this price point, I don't think so any Android phone or even any Chinese phones can compete with the hardware specs that the Nokia Lumia 520 provides. It has a fast dual-core Cred-based processor, has a 4-inch screen, and the phone runs very fluid. But the only thing is it runs the Windows Phone OS, so the app selection is a bit limited. But if you're okay with that, with Windows Phone, and you do not install a lot of apps, have a serious look at this Nokia Lumia 520. And also the 5-megapixel camera on this Lumia 520 is excellent. I would say it's much better than many of the phones that have the 5-megapixel camera. I couldn't understand how Nokia could have pulled it off, having such great specs and great camera for such an affordable price of rupees 8,000. So at the rupees 8,000 mark, I would say the first option that goes is the Nokia Lumia 520. But if you're looking for Android, then you can have a look at the Samsung Galaxy Trend. Obviously, it's not as fast as the Nokia Lumia 520. It has a 1 GHz processor. Now you get a 4-inch screen size at that price point. Negative aspects is the camera quality is not that great, and also the phone is a little bit sluggish in operations. But in Android and branded phones, this is the best option at around 8,000 rupees. Second option that you have is also Xperia E. This is also very similar in performance to the Galaxy Trend. I would say a little bit lower, but the pricing is better than Galaxy Trend. I think so around we can have it for 7,500 or so. But the negative aspect is with the Xperia is the display quality. That panel that Sony has put is not that great. If you can move a little bit ahead now, around the 10,000 rupees mark, you can have a look at the Samsung Galaxy Fame. It has a 3.5-inch screen, has a front-facing camera and also a rear-facing camera. The rear-facing camera is a 5-megapixel shooter, but this one does a better job, I would say. So at the rupees 10,000 mark, have a look at the Samsung Galaxy Fame. But still, if Windows Phone, you're okay with the Windows Phone, the Nokia Lumia 520 beats the pants out of all these phones. Now, if you can up your budget to around, let's say 12,000 to 13,000 or so, things get really interesting. And I would say if your budget is 10,000 and you want an Android phone, look at these options what I'm going to talk about. The first option that comes to my mind is the Sony Xperia M. You can have it around 12,500 or so something. Excellent phone, 4-inch screen, and it is powered by a dual-core Cred processor. Hence, the performance is blazingly fast. It has 1 gig of RAM, and in my testing, the overall performance was great. The phone did not exhibit the famous Android lag that we see here and there. But the con with this Xperia M is Sony has crippled this phone by having very low internal storage. That's around just 1.6 GB or so. So if you're a person who installs a lot of apps and a lot of games, then this phone might not be for you, because you might quickly fill up the internal storage. Also, if you take a lot of photographs, though it has a 5 megapixel camera, the camera quality is not that great on the Xperia N. But overall, apart from these two negative aspects, it's a great phone. Next option that I have is the Samsung Galaxy Core. It also has a dual core processor, but overall it's not as fast as the Xperia M. But the good thing about the Galaxy Core is that yes, this can also play high-end games without any issues. Samsung did not cripple this phone, and it has a decent amount of internal storage. I think so it's around 4.3 GB or so. So you can install a lot of apps and even some heavy games without any issues. You can check out my review for both the Xperia M and the Galaxy Core and check out the performance. Another good thing about this Galaxy Core is that the 5 megapixel camera that we have on this Galaxy Core is very good. Pictures that you can take come out to be great, but the con is that I don't know, Samsung has not provided HD recording on it, so you're stuck with just 480p recording on the Samsung Galaxy Core. If you are okay with Windows phone at this budget, around 13,000 or so, you can get the Nokia Lumia 620, which is again an excellent phone for Windows users. The biggest striking factor is that though it has just a 3.7 inch screen, the display quality of that screen is fabulous. You have to look at the screen quality to appreciate it. It's much better than some of the phones costing around 25,000 in the Android market. The screen is so good. Negative aspect of the Lumia 620 is battery life is just so. So that's for that budget. And now if we move to a higher budget of around, let's say 15,000 to 17,000, my first choice would be the Sony Xperia L. It has a 4.3 inch screen. It's a fast phone. It's a dual core phone based on the CRAT architecture. Hence, it's a blazingly fast phone. I tested it with a lot of gaming, etc. Had no issues with the phone. So overall in performance, I would say it's a great package at this price. You can't get anything better. Negative aspect is that though Sony says that it has 8 megapixel camera, the camera performance I would say is just average. And one more thing with the Xperia L is the screen viewing angles are simply not that great. It's average. It's not bad, but it's just average. The next option that I have, this is the second option that I have, is still the Samsung Galaxy Grand. It has that 5-inch screen, but now it's a little bit old. Pixel density is not as great, but the biggest aspect of this Grand is still the 8 megapixel camera that we get. I would say is among the best under 20,000. You don't get any phone in this price range with that great camera. The performance of the camera, 8 megapixel camera, is great. So if you take a lot of photographs, have a serious look at the Galaxy Grand. And also it has a front facing camera that's a 2 megapixel camera. So these are my two choices for the 15 to 17,000 budget range. Now if we move a little bit ahead and go to around 20 to 22,000, here the first choice that I have is the Sony Xperia SP. You can have it for around 21,000. Again, great performance based on the CRAT architecture. It has an Adreno 320 GPU. Hence, for gaming also, it's very nice. Only negative aspect, again, as I told you, camera, average quality, and again, display also is viewing angles are not that great. So at that price point, performance-wise, Xperia SP is very good. And next option that I have is the recently launched Sony Xperia C, which is based on the MediaTek chipset. It has a quad-core processor and it has a 5-inch screen. Overall, the performance is decent. I tested it with a lot of games and it can play most of the games without any issues. But in some of the high-end games, I saw a little bit of lag. But overall, I would say the performance of this Xperia C is very good. You can check out my review. It's, I would say, again, one of the best phones as of now under around 20,000 budget. Negative aspect is, again, the camera quality, particularly static pictures it can take is very good. But Sony says that it can also take video in 1080p. But when I took those videos at 1080p, the video quality was not that great. So again, cons are camera is average, and again the viewing angles, though the 5-inch screen is pretty good, but if you tilt the phone left or right too much, viewing angles quickly start to fade in. So these are two of the negative aspects, and one of the biggest positive aspects of the Sony Xperia C is that by default, in the firmware that comes with the phone, you can install a micro SD card and then install all the games and apps to the SD card. So this is a big advantage with the Sony Xperia C. So in terms of storage, you won't have any problems with the Xperia C. Now let's move to higher budgets of around 23,000 to 27,000, and the first choice that I have right now for this is the Sony Xperia ZL. It's around 26,000 to 27,000 in the market, and I would say it's overall the best phone in this price range. It has a 1.5 gigahertz quad-core processor, and it has 2 GB of RAM and Adreno 320 GPU. So overall the performance was great, and I did a lot of testing with this phone, played high-end games, etc. Had no issues with it. Also, it has a 13 megapixel camera, and the biggest factor about this phone is it has a 5-inch screen that is a 1080p screen. So that's excellent. So overall, I would say the Sony Xperia ZL at the price range of 26 to 27,000 is my first choice. If you don't like Sony phones, the second choice still is the Nexus 4. These days you can get it for 23 to 24,000. The good thing with the Nexus device, it's a Nexus device. It has a 720p HD screen, and you will get Android updates as soon as possible. Other phones will have to wait. Negative aspects of the Nexus 4 is the camera is just average, and also the battery life is not that great. And another negative aspect is while doing heavy tasks like gaming, etc., the Nexus 4 tends to heat up a lot faster than other phones. So these are the negative aspects of the Nexus 4. The third choice that I have is in that price range of around 23 to 27,000 is still the Samsung Galaxy S3. Yes, I know it's kind of old now, but still it has a good screen. That's a Super AMOLED screen at 720p panel. The rear facing camera, though it's just 8 megapixel shooter, is I would say great, and also it can do video recording at 1080p. That also looks great. I know it's a little bit old now. The con with the Samsung Galaxy S3 is now that it just comes with 1 GB of RAM. Though the phone is a pretty capable phone as of now, but moving ahead a year or so, I would say the Galaxy S3 will get outdated the fastest in this range compared to the Xperia ZL, Nexus and the Nexus 4. Now, if you can up your budget to around rupees 30,000 to 31,000, the first choice that I have is the LG Optimus Pro, which is a 5.5-inch phablet by LG. The good thing is that it has a 1080p screen and it has a 1.7 gigahertz quad-core processor, and the RAM on this is also 2 gigs. So overall, it's a very powerful phone, and actually it's much more powerful than the Note 2. Many people compare it with the Note 2, but in terms of raw performance, when I tested this phone, it goes ahead compared to the Note 2. Then the second choice still is the Note 2. The biggest advantage of the Note 2 is it has that S Pen, and also if you like those Super AMOLED screens, the Note 2 has the Super AMOLED screen, though it's just a 720p screen. So these are my two choices around the 30 or to 31,000 mark. And let's move a little bit ahead now. And I would say these are the high-end phones that we are moving around. In the rupees 31 to 35,000 mark, I would say have a look at the Sony Xperia Z. The price of Xperia Z has fallen down now. You can have it for around 31k. A great phone by Sony. The overall performance is great. It's a quad-core phone. It is also water resistant. So if you drop it in the water accidentally, and dust resistant, nothing will happen to the phone. But the negative aspects with this phone is poor viewing angles with the Xperia Z, and also while playing heavy games, etc., I noticed that the phone heats up very quickly. So these are two negative aspects of the Xperia Z. But if you want a water resistant phone at 30,000 to 31,000 mark, the Xperia Z comes to my mind. And now moving to phones above the 35,000 mark, and here three phones are in my mind, and I'll drop one of them. I would say the competition is between the LG G2, the Samsung Galaxy S4, and the Xperia Z1. And I would say the first phone that you should look at, and my vote goes, is for the LG G2. It has a 5.2-inch 1080p Full HD screen, and it's a gorgeous screen. The viewing angles are great. The con is outdoor visibility is a bit less. It has that unique knock-on feature where you can just knock on the screen and the phone wakes up. It has those buttons at the back. It'll take a little bit of time to get used to, but I found it's great. And also it's powered by the Snapdragon 800 chipset with Adreno 330 GPU. This is probably one of the fastest chipsets as of now that you can get. So amazing performance even in games. And also it has a 13 megapixel rear facing camera with optical image stabilization. And I have to say, the photographs and the videos that I got with this LG G2 is among the best for Android phone. And negative aspect is it does not have any micro SD slot, but on the other hand, the battery life on this is fabulous. It's again among the best. It has a 3000 milliampere battery, though it's not removable. The battery life is great. If you don't like the LG G2, then you can also have a look at the Xperia Z1. Particularly, I like the Xperia Z1 due to the water proofing features. It's a water resistant phone. Again, it's a fast phone based on the Snapdragon 800 chipset. I played a lot of games, etc. I didn't have any problems. Also, it has that 20.7 megapixel camera. The camera performance is very good. But when I did my side-by-side testing, I would say the LG G2's pictures and the video quality was slightly better than the Xperia Z1. Also, negative aspect of the Xperia Z1 is that it's a bit heavy, and it also heats up a little bit, but not that much. So Xperia Z1 is the phone if you want a rugged and a water resistant phone at this price. Sadly, at this point, I cannot recommend the Samsung Galaxy S4. It's also priced very similar to these phones, but the Samsung Galaxy S4, specifically in India, we are getting the Exynos octa-core version, is simply nowhere in picture compared to these phones. The problem with the S4 these days is it still heats up a lot, and also the S4 is around also 39,000-40,000. It still has a little bit of lagging issues which are simply not present with the LG G2 or the Xperia Z1. So at this point, sorry, I can't recommend the Samsung Galaxy S4. Look at the LG G2 or the Sony Xperia Z1. Further, if you can up your budget to around 45,000 or so, and you're okay with big size phones, I would say have a serious look at the Note 3. Yes, though it has the octa-core processor, but it's not the same octa-core processor that's used on the S4. This one uses the new octa-core processor. I think so the model name is 5420, and it does not have the flaws that we have on the S4. It's not a laggy phone, it's very smooth, and also it does not heat up. Another great thing is the camera performance. Though the S4 also had the 13 megapixel camera, the camera performance is a little bit better on the Note 3, and also by default it comes with 32 GB of internal storage, and also it has the S Pen, which has some improved features. So these are some of my choices for the smartphone buying guide. Also notable phones that I missed is now if you really like cameras, you can have a serious look at the Nokia Lumia 920. Now it's available at a very good price, and if you take a lot of photographs, have a serious look at that phone. So these are the phones for the smartphone buying guide. I've covered a lot of range from 6,000 to 45,000, and I hope that this video is helpful. Again, stay tuned to my channel, and if you aren't subscribed, subscribe to the same. Again, do remember that I have done reviews for almost all the phones that I've mentioned, so you can check out those reviews to get a detailed overview about those phones. So that's it for now. This is Ranjit, and I hope to see you in my next video.